Well, hello. I'm Milo Mumgard. I'm the Executive Director of Legal Aid of Nebraska. Welcome to the 2020 Equal Justice Awards Friends of Legal Aid Luncheon, annual luncheon. This year, we're doing it a little differently. We're not getting together in a big room somewhere with lots of really good chicken, but instead we're joining you all across the state and maybe even across the nation to share in paying tribute, really, to the contributions of low-wage essential workers in Nebraska and those organizations that are supporting them and making it so their lives during this COVID-19 crisis their needs are being addressed. Why? Well, these are legal aid's clients. These are the people that legal aid represents day in and day out in our work. The low-wage, struggling families that deal with things such as worrying about losing their home, fretting about their income being lost to creditors, family instability over time. These are who legal aid represents and works with. And we're pleased as punch today to be able to talk about those folks and the groups and the people that are working with them. Not only that, but you're going to hear from the nation's foremost scholar and voice on the impact of evictions and poverty and the surge of evictions that we're seeing across the state and across the country. What can we do about that? So I'm here just to welcome you, to say, come on in, let's enjoy the next hour, and to sit back or lean in, whatever is most comfortable as you in your viewing pleasure. And remember, here at Legal Aid, what do we say? What do we do each and every day? We make equal justice happen. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Summers. I am so excited to welcome you all to the first completely virtual Friends of Legal Aid Equal Justice Awards luncheon, via Zoom, of course. I am a divorce and family law attorney and partner at Slovacek Albers, a law firm in Omaha. I have a part in this today because I am also honored to serve as a board member for Legal Aid of Nebraska. So on behalf of the board and everyone at Legal Aid, I want to thank each of you for spending your valuable time to join us for the program today. I know each of you in your own way is a friend of Legal Aid, and I am honored to be in the same virtual room with all of you to celebrate the work and mission of Legal Aid. On the menu today, we have a remarkable speaker who will be touching on the very timely topic of the impact of eviction on individuals and families and the state of the eviction crisis, as well as the presentation and acceptance of Legal Aid of Nebraska's Equal Justice Awards. As you are enjoying this program, wherever you may be today, I hope you feel inspired to send some support to Legal Aid by texting LEGAL, L-E-G-A-L, to 80888. You can make a direct contribution that will be used to support eviction defense for low-income tenants across Nebraska by Legal Aid and our partners statewide. First, we want you to know a little bit more about Legal Aid and how our work, which is done alongside so many others, is so important in Nebraska today. It is a challenging time for all of us. That, of course, is no different at Legal Aid. With the largest legal staff in Legal Aid history handling more cases than ever before, we still can only take on a fraction of the legal problems that we know place heavy burdens on low-income Nebraskans today. And during today's trying times, including the pandemic, struggles are deeper and wider than perhaps ever before. So before we dive into our awards and speaker, we have a short video featuring the experience of a recent Legal Aid client during today's COVID-19 pandemic. The video highlights the hope and opportunity they gained from the high-quality free legal help they received from Legal Aid. Get ready to be inspired.
When you know you have a stable home, it makes your whole life stable. You come home and you see your kids happy and everyone around you are happy because you know your work is paying off. And knowing that someone is trying to take that of my house away from me, it seems like, how can I keep the trust in my kids if they feel like someone's taking their home? I'm Issa Stewart. I'm a general manager at Dairy Queen, and I love to be a father, and that's what I do. I was in a 3-bedroom house. I was there for 3 years. Due to the pandemic, I lost a job. I was unable to pay rent. I was communicating my circumstances and what I needed as far as with time and the way I was gonna go about taking care of rent. My landlord dropped a 7-day notice on my door, and that's when I decided to call Legal Aid in Nebraska. If they could give me these days to get out and just protect my background, I don't need them to say that they evicted me, because how can I ever move?
My name's Erin Olson, and I'm a new staff attorney with the Housing Justice Project at Legal Aid of Nebraska. So when I met Isa, he had just received some paperwork from his landlord. He just didn't really know what to do, where to turn. Normally the court process is that one bite at the apple. We initially tried to come to some sort of agreement with the landlord's attorney, and we couldn't find that common ground. So we ended up going in to see the judge and to have basically a mini trial. Some of the federal legislation and statutes have provided resources and eviction moratoriums for people across the United States, and so that applied to a lot of our clients. In this case, Scott Mertz, the attorney that argued the trial, he basically said there are some major issues with the way this case came to court.
When she introduced me to Scott, asked me a few questions, he knew what he was doing. They made it real comfortable for me when I went in the courtroom. Having someone going in there with me was a blessing, and it really helped out, especially with the expertise they came and showed. I wanted a few days more than what my landlord wanted to give me. If they would have went with my landlord, they would have came that same day. And I was just like, well, I gotta put my family on my back. If it weren't for legal aid, I wouldn't have been able to do that. They made me feel like I had somebody that really was on my side. I'm in a better house, and I know that things are looking up from this point forward.
Legal Aid serves to make equal justice happen. And with your help and support, Legal Aid's work to obtain a successful outcome for the family in the video can be multiplied by the thousands each year. But Legal Aid of Nebraska is just one part of the effort to see everyone treated equally under the law. We recognize that every bit of what legal aid lawyers, staff, and volunteers accomplish for struggling low-income Nebraskans is a result of hundreds of partnerships, which come in all shapes and sizes. Simply put, it's safe to say equal justice is likely a shared goal for all of us watching today. And the only way we can make it happen is to work together as friends and partners, which is of particular importance today as we strive together to survive and overcome the COVID-19 pandemic. Husch Blackwell is one of the country's most honored and effective private law firms. In Nebraska, we are so fortunate to have its Omaha office. Husch Blackwell's partners and associates are deep and loyal friends and have been great supporters of Legal Aid of Nebraska for many years, including through significant pro bono assistance on a wide variety of projects and initiatives. This support includes hundreds of hours of legal services in on-site legal clinics, taking individual cases, and advising on complex matters. Husch Blackwell is also committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in its employment operations, demanding more of the firm itself and setting a shining example for the legal community. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to honor Husch Blackwell's Omaha office with the 2020 Friends of Legal Aid Law Firm Partner Equal Justice Award. This award is in recognition of Husch Blackwell's contributions to building a fair and better legal profession and, through its many efforts and initiatives, being a model of private law firm commitment to equal justice for all in Nebraska. Here to accept this award is Marnie Jensen, the managing partner of the Husch Blackwell Omaha office.
Pro bono work at Husch is really at the core of who we are as a firm and at the core of our culture. We think of pro bono work as an obligation of the privilege of having law licenses. So we really encourage it in all aspects for all of our lawyers. With respect to our partnership with Legal Aid, while we do some individual representations, our focus has really been on the clinic side, right? So in particular, the Set Aside Clinic and the Tenant Advocacy Clinic / program. So the Set Aside Clinic, is the thing that gets me most excited because it's an opportunity for folks who have old convictions, old arrests, things that hit in a background check more than anything, that can keep people from jobs, from educational opportunities, from funding opportunities for mortgages, et cetera. And with respect to the tenant advocacy program, so much of folks in their housing insecurity is just, they get a notice and they don't know even what to do next, right? So what other place can you help 100 people in a morning stay in their homes, right? Answer their questions and get them into a place where the thing that will set them up for security in every other part of their lives, their homes, is resolved, right? It's work that you just see the instant result, and it's so valuable to the people that you're helping. When I got the news that we were selected as the community partner, law firm partner winner, I was, absolutely overjoyed. From my perspective, the recognition is great, and it tells me that legal aid is appreciative, but it's more than that. It's more that as an office, something that we as a group of lawyers have committed to as a group, and having that recognized is super exciting and tells us that we're on the right track, and it's momentum to get us into next year and the year after that and the year after that and the year after that.
Legal Aid works collaboratively with the Nebraska State Bar Association's Volunteer Lawyers Project, known as the VLP, and the Nebraska Law Civil Clinic to provide legal services to low-income tenants in Lancaster County through the Tenant Assistance Project. The Tenant Assistance Project is a multi-organization effort to provide free legal advice and representation to tenant defendants in Lancaster County Court during the growing eviction crisis. The goal of the Tenant Assistance Project is to provide legal assistance for every tenant facing eviction proceedings in Lancaster County Court through 2020. More than 40 private Lincoln attorneys working through the VLP have volunteered to provide these legal services to tenants. The Tenant Assistance Project and its volunteers are a model for eviction defense efforts across Nebraska, in both large urban centers and rural parts of the state. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to honor the volunteer attorneys working with the Tenant Assistance Project with the 2020 Friends of Legal Aid Attorney Partner Equal Justice Award. This award is in recognition of these private volunteer attorneys who have stepped forward to directly help the most vulnerable among us today, facing the economic hardships arising from the pandemic. Here to accept this award are Tenant Assistance Project volunteers.
At some point in April, I was just looking at the eviction docket and realized that there was a lot of people being called down to the courthouse for a hearing during a time when we were being told to stay in our homes and to self-isolate.
In evictions, typically tenants are not represented by counsel. And so the Tenant Assistance Project takes that barrier away by placing volunteer attorneys at the courthouse. And like Ryan said, once they are appearing at their hearings and they're represented by attorneys, they actually have a fighting chance to stay in their homes and avoid being, forced out of their homes.
When we put the call out weekly for volunteers, I never have difficulty getting volunteers. In fact, there are times when I have more volunteers than we have tenants appear at the courthouse. So that's how strong this program is.
It's been a really rewarding experience. I think having a safe space where you can shelter in place when there's something like COVID-19 going on is really important, but housing is an important issue even when COVID-19 is not going on. And something that I've learned through meeting the various tenants is usually what they're after is just more time and support to help them find a new safe location to go in the event that they're not able to stay where they are.
I thought it was awesome to be nominated and particularly to be nominated as part of a group of other awesome, wonderful, generous attorney volunteers that are spending their time as part of TAP, and to be recognized as that group is pretty phenomenal. To show other attorneys that, hey, this exists, people are doing it, they're getting some recognition. I can use it when I convey to my students, to my law students, why you should be doing this type of work.
I think it speaks to others to try to do the same thing. Even if it's hard, even if it feels like maybe it's not going to be supported, like if you're doing the right thing, it'll work out, and it matters. You make a difference.
From the beginning of the public response to the pandemic in March, low-wage essential workers struggled to understand the healthcare risks and consequences of the public health crisis on their lives, their families, and communities. This was particularly challenging for Black and Latino workers working low-wage jobs in essential workplaces. In Omaha, the community health centers stepped forward to fill this gap. And now, these centers continue to provide testing, education, and direct health services to low-wage essential workers and others struggling with the vast and disproportionate impacts on their communities. Perhaps most importantly, these community healthcare leaders have been outspoken public defenders of the interests of these low-wage essential workers, demanding a just and adequate response from our civic leaders and healthcare providers. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to honor the Charles Drew Health Center, One World Community Health Center, and Nebraska Medicine with the 2020 Friends of Legal Aid Community Partner Equal Justice Awards. These awards are in recognition of the profound moral leadership and remarkably valuable day-to-day healthcare services which are provided to low-wage essential workers and their families in the face of today's COVID-19 public health crisis. Let's hear from each of our awardees.
Here at Charles Drew, the work that we started and will continue to do is really addressing a lot of those social determinants. And what this pandemic has done has really just exacerbated the situation. So a lot of our essential workers, those that are on the front line, whether it's healthcare workers, individuals that are first responders, many of our families that are working in food processing plants or working in our grocery stores or delivering food, are all those that choose to call Charles Drew home. And so we wanted to make sure that we remain and are a trusted resource for them to be able to get out timely, accurate information related to the pandemic. So when we got the notice that we would be awarded the award from Legal Aid of Nebraska, it's humbling. I think that when you kind of look at the healthcare professionals that we have here at Charles Drew Health Center, they are putting themselves on the front line. They are waking up every day to make the impossible possible, all with the sense and hope that we want to keep the community healthy. We don't do the work for the acknowledgement. We let the work speak for itself. But when you are getting acknowledged from community leaders and your peers, it's always a big deal. And so, like I said, we're humbled, we're grateful. It will give us a jolt. Like I said, our employees are really doing the work every day to keep this community healthy, and the acknowledgement will go a long way in boosting morale, per se.
Some of the lower wage earners are, as I said, the forgotten. They don't really have a voice. So someone has to speak for them. In this day and age, it's unconscionable to me that we are not, when we talk about our communities, we're not talking about everyone. In this particular virus, it just was critical to life and death, not just their individual lives and their families, but that extends to the whole community. And if we don't take steps to help from a public health perspective, to help the population, all of Omaha will be impacted, let alone the lives that have been lost to COVID. I was surprised. I didn't know how or why we would get such an award, because we're just doing what we know is right every day, and to receive an award was, I mean, surprising, an honor, and to be named in that way, and very appreciated.
As an oncologist, I was often encountering patients who had a terminal illness, but they were also single parents of young children. And I didn't have a solution on what was going to happen to these kids who were soon to be orphans. And that's when I first started collaborating with attorneys, trying to put custody plans, guardianship plans in for these young children. The physicians will make a referral to the attorneys, and then the attorneys will just take over and address all of these civil legal issues that are identified. I have patients that are told if they miss another day of work because of their care for their cancer, they're going to lose their job. That's not legal, and our attorneys are helpful with those kind of things. Housing, where the housing is not in a good enough situation for a patient to return to and maintain their health. Well, the attorneys can help with getting the landlords to improve the environments of the home. Patients have so many issues that we can help with, and it's the most satisfying thing to be able to give some assistance to somebody that needs it. It's incredibly satisfying to be rewarded for what you know is really making a difference. And it's just so nice that the awareness is out there. And, the goal really is to have this become the standard of care and have these medical legal partnerships in every healthcare center across the country. It's a lot of work, and for the value to be recognized is very rewarding.
Early in the pandemic, as meatpacking plants in Nebraska became hotspots for coronavirus transmission and put thousands of workers at risk, there rose voices on behalf of these largely Latino and immigrant low-wage essential meatpacking workers who were experiencing the deadly effects of the virus. One in particular was the group Children of Smithfield, composed of children and relatives of workers in the Smithfield Foods pork slaughter and production plant in Crete. They joined together, found their voice, and were able to speak up on behalf of their vulnerable family members. In the face of this harsh situation for meatpacking workers, the Children of Smithfield led efforts to bring greater public attention to the plight of these workers and to get public officials to insist upon changes and improvements in the packing plants to lower the risk of spreading the coronavirus. These efforts included sponsoring weekly rallies in Crete and Lincoln to insist that the welfare of these meatpacking workers be addressed, demanding government leaders meet with workers and their families, and testifying before the unicameral. On behalf of the board, I am pleased to honor the group known as Children of Smithfield with a special 2020 Friends of Legal Aid Community Partner Equal Justice Award. This award is in recognition of their selflessness, compassion, and remarkable public advocacy, all in the spirit of insisting upon equal justice for all essential meatpacking workers, shouldering such a burden and facing such disproportionate risks during this public health crisis. Let's hear from the Children of Smithfield.
I think early on, one of the things we noticed is that they were named essential workers. They were indispensable to the economy, to continue running America, despite everything going on. And we understood that, and we understood that our parents were necessary. We didn't believe that they were being treated as essential workers or that their lives were being valued in that way. They wanted to work too. I think a lot of our family members, my dad included, have given so many years to their company. They've remained loyal employees, good employees, responsible. And so for them to all of a sudden feel like they were not given the support or the option of either going to work and risk getting sick and exposing their family or staying home and losing their job, it really wasn't a fair choice there. So and I think a lot of folks were in that very difficult situation. Yeah, I think we're incredibly honored, of course. I don't know that, any of us went into this type of work expecting anything, of course. I think, everything we do out of love for our parents. But I think it's necessary, and, centering our parents are essential workers, meatpacking plant workers in all of this, and continuing to elevate their voices and their struggles. I think it's super important. We're very thankful, of course, for Legal Aid and for everything that the organization does to empower and pursue justice for all of Nebraska. So thank you.
Thank you again to all the 2020 Friends of Legal Aid Equal Justice awardees. And please remember, by texting LEGAL, L-E-G-A-L, to 80888, you can make a direct contribution that will be used to support eviction defense for low-income tenants across Nebraska by Legal Aid and our statewide partners.
Hello, my name is Scott Mertz. I'm the managing attorney of the Housing Justice Project, Legal Aid of Nebraska's statewide initiative dedicated to addressing the housing needs of low-income Nebraskans. Evictions, foreclosures, and poor housing conditions. These are persistent threats to low-income families and what we address in the Housing Justice Project. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Housing Justice Project never stopped fighting for our clients as landlords attempted to evict families from their homes in spite of the federal and state eviction moratoriums enacted during the pandemic. According to the Aspen Institute, 108,000 individuals and families in Nebraska were at risk of eviction by the end of September. Today's speaker, author Matthew Desmond, knows exactly how the threat of eviction has impacted the lives of those living in poverty across the United States. Matthew Desmond is the author of bestseller Evicted: Poverty and Profit in the American City, which was named a best book of 2016 by nearly 36 outlets, including the New York Times and the Washington Post. He is a Pulitzer Prize winner, MacArthur Genius, and a leading national voice on evictions. As a professor of sociology at Princeton University, in 2017 he started the Eviction Lab, which published the first ever dataset of millions of evictions in America, dating back to 2000. It is my honor to introduce Matthew Desmond.
Again, thank you to Matthew Desmond and to each of our Equal Justice awardees. On behalf of Legal Aid, I want to thank Megan Mosslander, our Chief of Development and External Relations at Legal Aid, and Sam Bates, Legal Aid's Manager of Communications, for all they've done to make this virtual event possible and inviting all of you to join in here today. And thank you to Milo Mumgard, Executive Director of Legal Aid of Nebraska, for tirelessly continuing to make Legal Aid a successful organization and a pillar in the community. As most attorneys can probably agree, our line of work is not always quick, easy, pretty, or painless. The work done by Legal Aid of Nebraska is so important, and it makes a real difference to those in need, especially during these unprecedented times as we, all together, confront the COVID-19 pandemic. Our hope today is that you all feel the power and incentive to do your part to keep Legal Aid of Nebraska moving forward, positively impacting the lives of low-income individuals by donating to Legal Aid. Remember, text LEGAL to 80888 to give. We thank you in advance for your donation, and we thank you so much for joining us today. Let's close by hearing from a few of those great Legal Aid staff members.
Legal Aid of Nebraska needs your support today.
Your donations provide valuable legal resources to our friends and neighbors across the state.
Every single day, we make equal justice happen as we fight evictions, protect domestic violence victims, ensure people are receiving the benefits they deserve, and so much more.
Join us in ensuring low-income Nebraskans have the legal resources they deserve by donating today.
Text LEGAL to 80888 and thank you.